Good evening. I, Mir Haris Mansoori, welcome you all for second session of Yugma, Emerging Role of People, Office, Gearing Up for India 2030. We have a distinguished panel of speakers with numerous accomplishments, but due to paucity of time, we will not be able to mention them all. Joining us today, we have Mr. Himanshu Singh, who is the CEO of Y Grow and the chair for our panel 2 discussion. Yugma is a social enterprise that makes learning more accessible, affordable, and inclusive for institutions, industries, NGOs, and governments. Mr. Singh is the founder of GPE Direct and co-founder of Hotel Commerce. He has been cited in several academic journals, been featured in mainstream newspapers and magazines, and has been an active contributor at industry symposiums and seminars. He is also the former chairman of the E-Commerce and Digital Committee of the Internet and Mobile Association of India. Please give a huge round of applause for Mr. Singh. Now, we have Ms. Sudakshana Bhattacharya, is the CHRO of HDFC Ergo. HDFC Ergo offers a complete range of general insurance products for retail and corporate spaces. Ms. Bhattacharya has over a decade of experience in all facets of the HR domain by successfully building high standards of performance within organizations. At IL and FS Group, she initiated a program for retaining top talent and performance by implementing developmental interventions at various levels to enable employees to take on higher roles and effectively handle ever-increasing complexities within the organization. Please give a huge round of applause for Ms. Bhattacharya. Mr. Gajanan Nabal is the founding member, CEO, and managing director of Nova Air. Nova Air is an Indian industrial gases organization that is funded by PAG, Asia's largest private equity. Mr. Nabal has over 3 decades of experience, including 11 years as CEO of leading firms. He has also been previously associated with reputed companies like Asian Paints, Thermex, BASF, Monsanto, Praxair, Praj Industries, and CleanMax Solar. He holds a master's degree in science, a degree in MBA, and was also conferred with a diploma by Plastics and Rubber Institute, London. Please give a huge round of applause for Mr. Nabal. Now, we have Mr. Sridhar Nuthi, is the corporate HR head of Adani Electricity Mumbai Limited. Adani Electricity Mumbai Limited focuses on power generation, transmission, and retail electricity distribution. Mr. Nuthi has over 2 decades of demonstrated expertise in HR leadership and providing innovative human capital management solutions. He has expertise in various sectors like manufacturing, telecom, engineering, consumer goods, retail, power and utility infra sectors. Mr. Sridhar Nuthi has also worked with companies like Voltas, Gulf Oil Corporation, and Tesco's PLC UK. Please give a huge round of applause for Mr. Nuthi. Thank you so much. Mr. Joydeep Roy is the MD of Human Resources and Talent Supply Chain Leader at PwC India. PwC India offers clients various professional business services including accounting, auditing, human resource consulting, and strategy management. Mr. Roy has over 2 decades of experience, work, and has carried out large-scale transformations in driving profitable growth, competitive advantage, and enhancing people experience. He believes that there is no greater satisfaction at work then creating a shared vision and leading a team towards it. Please give a huge round of applause for Mr. Roy. Thank you so much.
All right, I think thanks, Padika. So, Director Saab, faculty, for having all of us here. I guess the topic at hand is something which is very interesting because, while we talked about opportunity, while we talked about, great prospects ahead, the people that are going to make it work is the most critical. And I guess what's important is I'm probably going to, speak very few words because I'd love to kind of, sink in and absorb from the panelists here. So what I'm going to do is set the context through a few keywords, right? And then we will, typically I have about 7 or 8, let's say how much you can go, leading issues. So we're going to pick it up and then I'm going to throw it to the panelists. And we're going to probably get their number one playbook remedy for, how do you solve that or how do you kind of, get to that opportunity. So let me just set the context, a little bit. So obviously various syndicated research, various numbers and so on and so forth. I guess like with everything else, what's happened over the last, you could say 2.5 years has been transformational, technology, COVID, a few numbers. There's a recent McKinsey report, which is, I think, it's very good because its context puts 7 countries, including India, and it essentially talks about 3, elements that are reshaping what's happening. Reshuffling. So what's kind of happening is people who were in a sector, in fact, and who probably lost jobs, came back, and more than 40%, 49% of them did not come back to the sector, that they were in. In fact, more than about 28, 29% of that number did not go back to the regular framework of full-time work, right? So that's one factor that's happening out there. The other is, people are largely by choice looking at evaluating whether they'd like to do full-time work, you see, and what different sectors, and that's a huge, factor that I'm sure all of us have seen. And the other is essentially reassessing whether I need to work full-time. In fact, people are having some amount, in fact, probably the greatest that we've seen in many years, focusing on things like, what's important for my family, what's good for my health, and stuff like that. So that's reassessing. Now, all these factors, I think the cumulative effect of that is, the survey says 60% of the people in India, of the people surveyed obviously, so it's syndicated research taken with a pinch of salt, are expected to look for another job in the current. That number globally is about 40%, you see. And that's something which, whether it's attrition, reskilling, upskilling, I'm like, all the factors are coming out of that. Another little number that I'll show, and then we kind of, pick up a few things and dwell and weave around some conversations around that, are, World Economic Forum, 51 or more percent of the core skills, and I'm not talking about these are the core skills, in 3 years, as we know them today, will not exist. Conservative estimation is we need to skill 1 billion people, in doing all of this. So in this context, obviously, I think what I'd like to do is, I'd probably maybe we can spend about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes with all the panelists giving their thoughts on, what are they seeing as strengths, and if I could request them to pick up 3 key issues that they see which keep them awake at night, right? So, Darshana, if I could start with you. What are the 3 things in, obviously from a work perspective, that keep you awake,
First of all, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Xavier, for inviting, for an amazing opportunity to be in this panel with all of you esteemed panelists. And thanks for giving the first opportunity to respond to what you asked. So, the benefit of the audience, because what keeps me awake may not be the same that keeps you awake. So, I'll try and answer this in two parts. What keeps me awake is to how to make my workplace so exciting that all of you who are present here who's going to graduate shortly will look at my organization as a future employer. So that's something that keeps me awake. Now, the other thing that responding to what you were saying, I think the panel prior to us spoke very beautifully and articulated very beautifully what was happening as a macro trend, also substantiated that with beautiful numbers. So what in essence, what it does for me as a professional, especially looking at the younger workforce that the country has, I think there are three things. One is it's a very exciting opportunity to see how corporations can leverage on the gig economy or the number of gig workers that's on the rise in India. That will be an exciting opportunity to see. Second is that how will the organization bridge the gap from campus to corporate? One is, of course, to have this bunch of youngsters coming out from institutions. How do they adapt to the working environment? That is the second. And not in order of preference, and the last would be that I think somebody in the previous panel mentioned that the business context is changing much faster than it changed earlier, which means that the workplace realities are going to change as fast. Then how would organizations ensure that this younger workforce adapts to those changes and still stay productive? So I think these would be three from my end.
It's fantastic. I think that's a lot of interesting pieces that we will on. So, Joy, I ask you to go next.
Thank you. And I think largely you have to see to it that why do we exist? We exist as a corporate for competitive advantage in corporate. Competitive advantage for largely to the talent. Why we also exist? If you look at the downstream impact, the societal connect of it, there are larger responsibilities of the corporate. That's why if we are a corporate, why we are a corporate. Now the question is, what keeps us away? The issue, if you look at it, as you rightly said, now if I link it, it has to be a competitive advantage for the individual, for the corporate. Where is the predictable talent? It has to be predictable talent for that corporate to see to it that planning is not for today. Planning is for coming years. And most of the important challenge is where do we get the deployable skill? When I say ready to deployable skill, it is not linked to scaling or something else. Exactly, it is linked to backward integration from a perspective that where corporate, academia work together to see to it that where do I create this predictable supply chain for the next 3 years, which will create the new India. New India is not only from high degree, pedigree campuses. It has to come from across the board, which will represent the talent in India. And I think that's the challenge, number one. When we talk about predictable supply chain, ready to deployable skill, second, what we have learned in the last 2 to 3 years, it's experience economy. If it is an experience economy, each talent who walks into anywhere, everywhere, they would like to see to it moments of truth in each corporate, under each people manager, under each employee. And that's another piece to look to it, that is if we are driving right experience. Because if you are driving right experience, the monetization of experience comes through monetization into your life. And these are the two very important aspects that get linked if you are actually planning it well. We have done a lot of scenario planning, a lot of corporate does the scenario planning. But the downstream of scenario planning, and can do the scenario planning well, but who is fulfilling it? That's a very linked aspect which comes across to it. And in the process, Sudarshan talked about gig, but the question is very challenging. Are we creating an ecosystem to flourish the economy? Challenges are more likely. The challenge is from the perspective that how do I pursue a different kind of passion? If I want to do a corporate job and I am a YouTuber, is corporate giving me an ecosystem that I can pursue both? We need to relook at ourselves that am I creating an ecosystem? In Indian context, gig, we have got it from outside. Gig is just to get flourished into our kind of system. We still are used to a contingent workforce. We are not creating an ecosystem where a gig can flourish. The process, policies, HR has to go a long way to create something where to create an ecosystem where gig economy can flourish. So these are something I'm giving it across, predictable talent supply, experience, and ecosystem which is more inclusive where everybody can actually benefit.
No, wonderful thoughts, Ravi. Thanks for that. Shrikar, I ask you to go next and outline 3 things in your paper.
Thank you all for having me here. Himansu's point, what he has raised, I raised the 3 topics, typically 3 cohorts I call. It's very simple and very clear to narrate it by any, especially from the student point of view. So since you are getting into corporates from tomorrow. One is the change which is happening in the space of work. So I will call it as a work that is changing. Taking the cues of all, economic growth, gig economy, conceptualization from the environment where we like to work in future. Second is the workplace. How the workplace is impacted. My career or somebody who are in the audience of this panel and some of the seniors who are working in the corporate and other lives, our work. Sorry. So work is one which is changing. So what work is changing? What workplace is changing? The third very important aspect, which connects everybody here, whether you are from business, you are from operations, you are from HR, you are from any other space of the activity that you occupy, that is called the workforce. The workforce, what we need to have in future. Are we ready to accomplish the new way of work which is generating new way of workplace that is coming in place? So 3 activities: work, workforce, workplace. The impacts on all these 3 are going to have huge bearing on resource, technology, and way that we talk and way that we work and accomplish that goal. Whether it is going to be gig economy or any other element that we are talking about. So hope these 3 are at this stage to propagate.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, Sridhar. Gajanan, if I can ask you to go next, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Himanshu. I might take half a minute more if it's okay with you. Let me start with a small example. I'm sure you have heard of a company called Patagonia, which is an outdoor costume wear company. They put up a whole page ad in New York Times Sunday edition. They put their jacket on top. The whole page was the picture of a jacket and said, the tag below said, please don't buy it. Okay, and a lot of the cynics thought it's a marketing gimmick. And what you read in this ad later is that they said to make this jacket, they spent 250 liters of water, which can, provide drinking water for so many people. We burned so much of, we created so much of green gas pollution, which can, like running 25 cars, things like that. And they were absolutely transparent to the point of how the environmental damage this jacket has created. And they said, buy if you must. That's what they said. So they had this courage to go and ask the community or the people to do the right thing. And the earlier panel, I think one gentleman, one of the speakers said a very important point, and for me that's the cornerstone, one of the, you said three words in the playbook, is people. I mean, if you look at the evolution, how, earlier it was product company, people who have product to make the mark. Then it started being customer first, so everybody was talking about customers, moved to technology at the next phase. And later on, obviously, everybody said, you know what, we are here, businesses are here to make money. It's not true. Businesses are not here just to make money. Businesses are here to create a sustainable ecosystem. And companies like Patagonia have identified that, and there are many more. And if you need to, and all of you are going to go tomorrow and be business leaders, you need to give a lot of focus on this aspect of business. That's number one. Second, I would say, is democratization of employment choices. I mean, Himanshu said that. I mean, people might, my father's generation, people join one company and they retire. People like me and my generation probably change a few jobs. And, going forward, I'm sure it's not so much of which company you work for, but I think more and more how you adopt new skills, and probably you will do multiple different jobs. And maybe you'll take breaks. You will not work all the time. And maybe you will change the way you want to do things in your life, because the technology and I would say the overall progress of the mankind will provide you those choices, which are probably happening already. That's number two. And number three is, again, the earlier panel talked about privacy. I think privacy is the past. There's nothing like privacy. And if we're kidding ourselves, it's all private, people don't know where I am, everybody knows everything. And then obviously a lot of impact for the individual, but there were larger impacts for the corporates. People outside don't know exactly what we do. And earlier it was attitude or aptitude. I would say cornerstone of selection would be ethics and etiquette. Because what you do inside the company will be all known, and people will know it before even it hits the media. So I think, mostly for me, since you asked me, these are three cornerstones.
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. That's a lot of meat on the table to kind of all around and play. So I guess, let me just start with picking up, summarizing some of these. So obviously we've talked about the gig economy, right? And obviously that's something that's staring at our face. It's already at about 3 or 4 million. It's going to be about 12 million. In fact, there's a lot of work at the government going on to figure out and have a framework and a structure and so on and so forth. So that's interesting. And I think, so that's what I talked about, typically some of us call it education to employment gap, some, overseas, we call them pre-professionals program and so on. So I'd like to probably spend a little time on that, because that's something which is in context of the larger set of the audience here, which is the students, right? And because you don't get a great opportunity where you have esteemed panelists like this who are CHROs and CEOs in the businesses, so I guess it would be best to hear from them. So let me just pick, that is the first one, and get thoughts of the panelists on, in their experience, what are the gaps that they are, currently seeing between who they'd like to hire, their skill, skill matrices, competency matrices, whatever we call them, from various entry-level roles to the talent, because the challenge is that the academic curriculum is set, centrally, right? And there's only so much of electives and so on and so forth. So irrespective of how much job-oriented an education institution may want to make their curriculum, they have to tie to a point, right? So how, because this is probably the crux, because if we can bridge this gap between education to employment and bridge it well, we'll set ourselves up. So let me open this to the panelists, and I'm not going to, call out a name. I think anybody, please feel free to. Let's have a free flow discussion and try and give away to to the audience here, which are largely students, what should they do so that they can bridge this gap better, faster, and based on global standards, right? So happy for anybody to pick that on.
Like what the corporate looks like. Ability to connect the dots. Everybody expects productivity, as I said, ready to deploy this. Now, everybody waits that who gives me an opportunity, how I am deployed, because I'm doing my either graduate or my postgraduate, so they're expecting a campus, somebody will pick me up and I get an opportunity. Right? And I think it's a two-way responsibility. One, am I giving somebody a responsibility to know where exactly you want to land? Internship, on the job, choose maximum of your opportunity to see to it. But do I know what I want? Be very clear in today's world that why exactly I do exist. If I'm doing a particular course, what I intend to do with this. If I intend to do with this, these are the milestones. Be very clear. Demand it. Do it. And this is where if you see each of the corporate has their own planned backward integration. Somebody is doing it in second year, third year, fourth year accordingly. And see to it that you are seeking those opportunities and choose those corporate accordingly. So that first day you are productive, you are creating your impact, you are doing your influence straight away from day one. To inculcate the ability of storytelling, the day one, this is what I actually learned. You have got very few moments to impress upon. To see to it that this is, I learned it, this is exactly I am doing it, and I understand it better. At every stage, wherever you get an opportunity to connect, leave little pieces of you into him or her, whoever, in terms of stage, whichever stage, small project stage, leave your bits of pieces, create your record at each stages. That will go a long way for you. And if you are part of a structured curriculum with the corporate, do it. And I request to all the corporates also, come back, do this backward integration, plan it well, so that you also have a predictable supply chain. You are not waiting for a particular year to pass across, and let the team actually pass and I will go on activities. I think this is where the whole stitching has to do with long way around. The stitching for both these two parties is very, very necessary for us in the coming years.
Okay, just a time check. So, just a couple of quick thoughts, and then we can kind of wind up.
As is mentioned in how the connect is going to be established, what sort of readiness is supposed to be required. Point one, we have the industry interact session. Give away that. Get into student direct interact with industry. How you establish and what parameters you establish, how many hours you are going to get engaged yourself with the corporates. Whether it is a small, big, large corporate, don't look at SML practice. Go to any corporate and ensure that what you are learning as a syllabi in your academia supposed to go and understand. Is it same thing is happening? Somebody's management talking about strategy or studying about the strategy of the business. How the strategy document of a specific business look like? Till you never gone to the corporate, you are not even aware what is the strategy document look like. Unfortunate, even in Indian context of my 33 years, haven't seen no 2, 3 years or 5 years or 10 years experience resources ever saw that document yet. When without knowing what is the strategy document of the company or the business, how you people are the participants of that journey. Just now we are talking about Indian economy going to this rate, and we are all supposed to be partners in that program. Exactly, we should, high participation is required. Everybody do agree with that. And some gentleman has mentioned also, every individual must invest in India. Fantastic. But when you are a student, already aspire to be in engineering, aspire to be in management, getting into the corporate life, why you are not even taking 1 week of your entire year to be the corporate interactive session? 1 week. I doubt whether that sort of existence in syllabi itself is there. If that 1 week or 1 month or 15 days, it can be decided based on the exposure that you gain, the feedback that you will receive out of that. The several students they don't anticipate college's responsibility to create. No, it is a responsibility of every student. You should understand how I interact myself back to an industry. If you are not getting an opportunity to get connect, expose. Go to your necessary program coordinators or course coordinators, deans of your organization, request them saying that, is it possible for me to establish? If the demand comes, automatically supply happens. Once you know what is happening there, you have a more practical connect. Moment you have a practical connect, your exposure of what you are reading is different. I'm lucky that today the way the Vaidyanathan has started, so I have great respect to him, saying that very pertinent, very clear, very solid questions you ask. Is it possible 40 years, 4 decades China is heading, continuously striving to be there and sustaining in that element? Is it one night when we decided we are going to replace that? We are not even reached that stage. We are aspired to be there and going to be there. Certain certainty is looking like. But is it true that you are going to establish that? If at all being there, not only being there is a thing, how you continue to be there and sustaining the position that you have. These two are very important things. I personally feel that we discuss ourselves only to the limit of how we connect to corporate, how we establish we are getting ready. The day that we have a certificate, we are readiness to deliver in the corporate world. This is what we need to establish. Thank you.